Thank you for joining us today on Salon Sleuths. My name is Leslie and my co-host is Melissa. I want to remind all of you who listen to us on a regular basis, or maybe this is your first time, to please follow, subscribe, like, share, whatever the case may be for the platform you are on. Now, we do post these episodes on YouTube with video for those of you who'd rather watch. We enjoy making these shows, but unless you interact with us, we're not sure if you do. So please jump on your social media and let us know. You can find us under Salon Sleuths on almost any platform. Now, we hope you enjoy today's show. Thank you.
Hello, Salon Sleuth fans, and Leslie. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Melissa.
Are you?
I know that you're excited. You got some sports stuff going on.
March Madness. Oh my gosh. Do you watch March Madness at all?
I'm guessing that's all something to do with sports.
Yes. Are you crumbling paper right now too?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I was crumbling plastic, but I'm no longer.
You guys don't even know, our listeners. She's constantly fiddling, and I'm like, okay, what are you doing? Stop doing what you're doing. I'm like texting her, stop doing what you're doing.
Quit doing that.
Oh, you crack me up. It's like you just have to start doing it once we start recording.
Well,
Okay,
and I just realize how good our speakers are, I guess.
Exactly. Okay, so March Madness, very exciting in our house because since the kids were, I don't know, like in their early teens, we started a group of March Madness, brackets, doing the brackets. And so we do it with our kids. It's my husband and I and my best friend and her son, and then my two kids. And then sometimes we've even included other people. But this year it's just the five of us. Wait,
Melissa. What is March Madness?
Shut up.
No, like I hear that term, but what is it?
Okay. Oh, Leslie.
I know that has to do with sports, but that's all I know is like, I think it's football.
No, it's basketball.
Okay,
it's basketball. Okay, so in college basketball, the NCAA throws a tournament, and I cannot even tell you. I think it's 16 teams times 4. What's 16 times 4? I don't even know. So many teams can qualify, and then there's some that get to play in. So like, if you're 1 or 2 in your division, then you automatically get a berth. And then if you play in, you have to beat the other team that you're kind of tied with. So just like a tournament you would do for softball, softball, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. But what happens for some reason in college basketball, like number 15 coming in that bracket will beat the number 1 seed in that bracket. Like just crazy flip-flops of these teams that you expect to just trample everybody. Or the opposite, you think that they're just going to lose like immediately. They end up, winning. So it's called March Madness because literally no one can predict the games and who is going to win and who is going to lose. And I just love college sports because they're just so much more authentically, I don't know, rich. Like they're not professional athletes. So just the shit that happens, I don't know, it's just really, really fun. And so they call it March Madness, the March Madness tournament, because it just, for some reason, it just has a historical, historically has just been crazy, like that these teams win or lose. And when you hear Cinderella teams, that means a team that is ranked very low comes in and beats a very high ranking team. And so that happened yesterday. And it's just super exciting. So Oral Roberts is the name of a college. And I just, for the listeners, I put it on like while I'm trying to work in the background. So I just kind of hear, I like having noise when I'm working. And so I had this Oral Roberts game on. And I've never heard of the college Oral Roberts. And I'm just thinking they're talking about a player. And then finally I'm looking up and I'm like, okay, that's Oral Roberts. Oh, okay. Wait. They're all named Oral Roberts because, they have the names on the back. Well, some teams have their specific names and some teams have the college name. So the whole time I've been thinking, they keep saying, oh, Oral Roberts, blah, blah, blah. I think they're talking about a guy. No. They're talking about a team. So that was kind of the blonde moment for me as I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's a college. But they
That's
won.
something I would say, Melissa. I wouldn't expect that out of you.
Yeah, for sure it is. I mean, would you even think? I mean, Oral Roberts is the guy's name. It just doesn't seem like, I don't know. Seems
Yeah.
like we should have followed it with college or something. I don't know. But anyways, the
Yeah.
Beavers, the Oregon Beavers played last night. And this is the first time they've been to the tourney in, gosh, a long, long time. And they actually won. And then this morning at 9 a.m., the Oregon Ducks played, which I'm an alumnus. So we were all very excited. My daughter still goes there, and my husband is also an alumni. And so we woke up this morning, we had green and yellow pancakes. And, I'm dressed in my jersey. Yes, it is a football jersey because that's what I wanted to wear today. But we watched that, and yeah, it's just fun. And so we have these brackets, right, where we've picked who is going to win and who's going to lose. Well, all of our brackets are shot this year. Like with COVID, it seems like there's been more upsets than I ever can remember in March Madness.
Well, I had a client this morning wear green.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, did you wear that on St. Patrick's Day? And she's like, well, I'm wearing it for March Madness. And I didn't ask her because I was like, this is going to sound really stupid if I ask her what that is. But I knew like Christy had mentioned something about the Beavers last week on Facebook. So I was like, okay, I think it might have something to do with that. I'm not really sure, but I didn't know it was basketball. But
yes, it is.
so like, okay, when it comes to like professional basketball, is there something that they call that?
Well, there's the playoffs, but no.
Okay.
So the closest thing I would say is last year, it was 2020 during COVID, the teams bubbled, the professional basketball teams bubbled, and they did like almost like a March Madness where each team they played every day or every other day or whatever, and they played a bunch. And I was like, why don't they do this more often? Like, this is so fun for us viewers to like know that we have all these games to look forward to.
Yeah.
And what happens is, so Friday it started, and they play multiple times a day. Like you can watch games because there's so many games, there's so many teams. They're just like one after another until like, I don't know if it's today or tomorrow. And then we start going days between because we start ferreting down the number of teams.
So all of these teams are hanging out at some place.
Yes, in Indiana. Yes.
So like your jersey says Pac-12. Is that equivalent to professional football?
No, Pac-12 is the league we're in. So this is the Pacific League, and we have 12 teams.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna have a sports.
We'll do that at football time. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're in the Pac-12. There's 12 teams. It's us and the Beavers and UCLA. UCLA still in. And the other cool thing is Gonzaga, which is a private school in Spokane. They have had kind of always been really good, and they had like a streak of just like amazing years, and they've been a little bit like not as hot lately, and so they're doing really well. Like they were a number one seed team coming in. A lot of people think they're going to win the tournament. They are still in. If they win, I've got one bracket having them win it. So we usually do 2 brackets a piece, which probably means nothing to you. You're like, what are you talking about? You lost me at the word bracket, right?
When we played softball, I'm like, so just tell me, if we win this one, do we play another game?
Yes.
And they're like, yes, we'll play 2 more games if we win this one. I'm like, okay, when do we get to go home? Like, do we have to lose this one? Like, I'm really not.
So, on the wall, when you go to those softball tournaments and they have those brackets, you basically for purposes of March Madness, you fill those all in where you think everybody's going to win, who you think is going to win until you get to the championship. And so that's why it's fun, is because people guess, and they make sometimes educated guesses and sometimes complete guesses on.
So you could lose your bracket right away if you do.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. People have already lost their brackets. Eric lost his bracket because he had Illinois winning the championship, and so that bracket's already gone. Actually, I think I had one with Illinois too. Yeah, you can lose your bracket almost immediately. That's why we do 2.
That's why I never gamble. Like, there's no way
Yeah.
I could ever figure out that kind of stuff. But then it kind of reminds me of that movie Moneyball,
Yes, it
where they
is.
go in and they're finding these like key players that were kind of unexpected.
Well, what's fun about this, I do admit, I used to go through and like pick every team and like I'd give it thought and like see if I could, do some sort of psychic mediumship, and most of the time I am just scrambling to get it done. So there's auto picks. So if you want to do it with your family, you could just do an auto fill and it would fill
Okay.
it for you. And then like I changed my autofill because it didn't have the Ducks winning the first round, which ended up being the other team forfeited because of COVID. So the Ducks did get to go to the next round. And then the Ducks won this morning, which I didn't have them winning again. So you can change once you do an auto pick, then you can, kind of change a few games or say, oh, I don't really like this. I want to do something different. So
Adjust it somehow.
yeah, adjust it. So it is kind of fun if you ever thought you wanted to get into it. But then when you're like, when people are like, okay, who are you rooting for? Who are you rooting for? You'll look at your bracket. You'll be like, okay, I'm rooting for Syracuse, whatever. So clearly you did not work. Now here's the big topic that I have after this week. Did you hear about the March Madness NCAA tournament for the women as compared to the men?
No.
Okay. And you maybe you just didn't absorb it because you didn't know what they were talking about. Okay. So the men, March Madness is huge. I mean, people go to Vegas every year to place bets to watch March Madness. It's usually been in Vegas, the tournament, some of the games and stuff too. So people will flock to Vegas for March Madness. Well, so it brings in a lot of money. I'm not going to lie about that. Well, some of the women have posted pictures of their weight room at their NCAA tournament compared to the men's weight room at the NCAA tournament. The men's room is like a conference room size, like a full basketball court or bigger, full of weight equipment. The women's side is, and I'm not even shitting you, one like triangular holder of free weights. That's it.
Yeah.
And so people started posting it. Then the ladies were posting what their dinner looked like, and it looked so disgusting, Leslie. It looked like those TV dinners you get as a kid with the Salisbury steak with the little like indentation, like divot size pokies in it. You remember that meat that you'd flip over?
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it looked like that. Compared to the men's, they have like a walk-through buffet with like, all these hot dishes that they get to choose from. No, the women were getting basic TV trays.
So do you cheer on the women's?
So yeah, we are, because
as much as you do the men's.
Yeah. So no, not as much because it's just not set up for that. But we have been watching the women play as well. Mostly because our teams, that in the Pac-12 have been in there. We've been watching volleyball too. So we've been watching a lot of sports. But that's the problem. But so this is what happened though, Leslie. So everybody starts posting this saying, look at this disparity between the two. And of course, the NCAA came out and said, well, you don't bring in as much money and we didn't have as much room. Well, then the ladies showed how much room they had and it was just completely empty on the other side. So shout out to Orange Theory and Dick's, because Dick's Sporting Goods, they immediately responded via Twitter. And yeah, you know what, this helps them. This is great advertisement, but they put their money where their mouth was. And they said, immediately we are sending equipment and gear to the women's NCAA tournament.
But then where does that stuff go at the end?
Like, they'll take it back.
Take it till next year? No,
they'll probably take it back.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I applaud, Dick's and Orange Theory for doing the right thing. And, the question, I guess, is the people organizing this, could they have not reached out prior to this to Orange Theory, Dick's, whoever else, Big Five Sports, and said, hey, will you guys donate some equipment that we can have at this tournament? for these women. Like it just really seems like somebody should lose their job over this. I hate to say it.
And is it all at the same place?
No, different places.
It just sounds like some guys like, that's all, they're good over there. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. It really
that's
is
just bad.
pathetic. Yeah, it is. Well, so
that's how our world is these days. Like nothing's fair right now. And
correct.
everybody's like,
well, and you're not going to get away with it, right?
Oh, right.
I mean,
it's probably been that way for years, but now
Yes.
it's just like brought it to everybody's like attention. that things are not fair.
Yes.
Life is just not being fair for a lot of people.
Yep.
I was looking on our, you can see where people have viewed or watching us from.
Yeah.
One of them is from Bandon,
Oregon,
which is really close to where that baseball field is.
Yes.
So you better watch yourself.
Oh,
I was like, oh shoot.
Oh,
like
that's
someone's paying attention.
That's Lori Cox? No, Deborah Cox.
Yeah.
Well, if I go missing, you're going to know who to look at first, dude.
I just saw that the other day. I was like, oh, shoot.
Okay. Wait a second, though. Before we go to our story,
yes,
you have also got to tell the story that she and I were in the salon. When you guys all want to know why we're called the Salon Sleuths, because this whole idea started in the salon, and we thought, well, wouldn't this be cool to like record in the salon? Well, then we realized there's a whole lot of sound problems, and there were other people in the salon, which didn't really make it conducive. You flipping had me in stitches last week when we were talking in the salon. What was the story you were telling me?
Oh, well, there were a couple, but it's all over the same person, which was my dad's girlfriend at the time. My dad's now passed away. So his girlfriend, Suzan, which I think anytime you say that name in our household, everybody cringes like, oh. Suzan was a terrible alcoholic, and she came to visit with my dad at Christmas time. She'd been here, I think, twice. And she's just really a mess. And not only does she look like she's a mess, but she is a mess. And so which part are you talking about here? Because there's like, there's so many.
Well, I will blow it if I tell you. I mean, do you want me to tell the story?
Well, okay. I'll tell the story of like when we're having Christmas dinner.
Yes, the grandma story.
Yeah, so we're having Christmas dinner, and I have like 22 people in our house, and we don't have a big house. So when you're in the living room, you can basically see the kitchen, and you can see down the hallway, and you can see the front stairs that go to the front door. And I have a friend who says my name to get my attention, and I look over at him, and he kind of like does his head like movement like to the hall.
Yeah, like
so I follow
I follow
to the hall, and my dad's girlfriend Suzan is standing in the hall. Okay, and by that time when he says that, everybody looks at me, then follows his head to her. So now we're all looking directly at her, and she's leaning against the wall with her pants around her knees. Like everything is down around her knees.
Wait, her underwear too?
Everything. Like she can, yeah. But she's kind of leaning over, so you can't.
Oh, I was gonna say, were you know what's happening? Bush? Like what was going on?
No, like I think she was leaning over, so her shirt's like down. You couldn't see, but you could see that she had bare legs, and you could see that her pants are around her knees. So I kind of go over and block the views, because as you're walking down the hall, like anybody can see her.
And you have littles. You like have little kids, and so does this other guy.
I mean, and we have guests. Like we have people that aren't related to us here, because some of this would sound normal for our Christmas, but then when you don't have people who are used to this, it seems really odd.
And she's just blotto, and nobody else is blotto.
She is shit-faced. So I stand in front of her, and I can't get her to walk. So I have to kind of roll her back into the bathroom. And I wanted to just shut the door and turn off the light and let her like figure it out. But I just told her, like, don't come out until your pants are on.
This is what you told me. You go,
yeah,
you need to go back to the bathroom and not come out until you get your pants up. And she goes, well, that's why I came out, because I couldn't get them back up.
She's like, I tried. I'm like, well, you cannot come out until you succeed. Like, stay in the bathroom until your pants are on. So I was mad. I was like, oh my God. Right. So she finally.
And does your dad see this? Like, is he watching his girlfriend make a bloody fool of herself or what?
I think this is normal for him. Like, I don't know if he realizes this is a big deal. He's probably a little drunk too. Given these are probably the only 2 drunk people at Christmas.
Okay.
And so she eventually comes out, and I'm just like not giving her eye contact. I'm not even looking at her. She goes and sits down next to grandma.
And grandma is like 90, right? And she has dementia.
Yes. Yeah, she is no longer there. She's the sweetest little thing. But she will kiss about anybody. Like, she just loves everybody. And then I look over, and grandma and Suzan are making out. And I'm like, and then Suzan looks at me and she goes, she's a good kisser. I'm like, she's my grandma. Like, what are you doing? Like, the whole thing is terrible. Okay,
but tell the best part that you said about that when she said she's a good kisser. You said,
what, grandma doesn't have any teeth? Like, I don't know. Like,
yes, she didn't have her teeth in. Of course,
have any teeth. Like, she's my grandma. Why are you kissing my grandma?
Okay, so she's really, by blood, she is Michael's grandma, right? Your husband,
right?
Okay, yes. Is he there? Does he see them making out?
Well, I don't, I'm sure everybody saw it. Like, there's no way around that. We are all just like horrified. We're trying to like separate them because grandma, she loves everybody. Like, and honestly, she would have hated if anybody in her right mind, she would have never in a million years, you know, and the poor thing's now no longer here. And she's probably cringing that I'm telling this story, but Suzan was a big mess. She still is, I'm assuming, but I mean, like, she peed my sister's bed.
But tell that story too, because so
we kicked her out of her house because she kept smoking pot and then denying it.
Right. And you were like, look, you know, we don't have a problem with you smoking pot, but not in our house and not in front of our kids. Like, you know, our kids are here, and you're like, we can smell it out in the family room. Like, we don't want.
And she's like, oh no, it's not me. And I'm like, what are you, like a 15-year-old kid lying? Like, I can smell it. Like, are you? And my husband and I would just look at each other like, oh, there she goes again. Like, but I also kind of think she would black out and then do it. Maybe she doesn't even know she's doing it, because when I kicked her out and she went to my sister's house, my sister would catch her at the dining room table, like at 3 a.m. in the pitch dark, drinking a bottle of wine. Like, but she's like, I don't think she knew she was doing it. Like, she's passed out doing it.
Well, and so then she goes over there because you kick her out.
So I kick her out because she's smoking pot.
Right. So your mom, or your not even stepmom, just girlfriend and dad go to sister's house, and they sleep in one of sister's beds.
No, it's like an air mattress.
Okay. Oh,
so
okay. That's
the air mattress, right?
She pees the bed.
But then, so she, like, instead of like collecting the sheets and throwing them in the wash, she tells my sister, oh, it's okay. You know, I just leave the covers off. It'll dry by the time I go back to bed. Oh my God. So when you say something,
did she admit that she peed the bed, or did your sister figure it out?
I don't know. All I know is they both know that somebody had peed the bed, and it wasn't my sister, and it wasn't my dad. Like, because, you know, like,
can you imagine going, hey, I peed the air mattress, but don't worry, like, it'll be dry
when I go back to bed. So the only thing I can think of, that's somebody who does it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
okay. And you know, from having kids, when they pee in a bed, even if you would let it dry, it is nasty smelling.
Yeah. It's gross.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
You had me in stitches. I was just like, oh my God, that makes me laugh so hard.
That's why
I could see you rolling her like a boulder, like across the wall back into the
because she was so drunk she couldn't stand on her own, so she needed the wall as support. So I just kept rolling her up against the wall until she made it back into the bathroom.
And I can see our mutual friend going, Leslie, doing the head tilt.
Ew. Well, I'm just like, who does that? Like, who comes out of the bathroom, Melissa, invite me over to Thanksgiving with all your family and all your friends. And then when I come out of the bathroom with my pants around the knees, like, oh my gosh. Like,
Okay. I do get a little funny. My girlfriend says, I have one drink and I'm halfway to a bad decision. Which does make me laugh because she's kind of right. I'm a total lightweight. But I have done funny things and I'm an oversharer. So I would have no problem like coming out of the bathroom, not with men, but like with women, going, I'm having trouble getting my pants on or what, or pants up or whatever. But yeah, that's just embarrassing, especially when that isn't the vibe of the party.
You're like, you come out, I got a new freckle.
Yeah.
Concerned about this? Like, and then you're like, oh, never mind, that's just dirt. I mean, but you know what? Those are funny moments, not like sad, disgusting, you're such an alcoholic moment that it's just sad and embarrassing at that point. Like
kind of pathetic.
It was really bad. I mean, the whole time she was here was just like, we kick her out for smoking pot, and then she tries to give my husband a big jar of pot when they're leaving because she can't take it on the plane.
Right. Yes.
And Michael's like, I kicked you out of my house. No, you said you would take it. No, you said, and they're like throwing this jar back and forth. And I'm just like, what is going on? And then she realizes, because my sister's like, no, that's my boyfriend. You told my boyfriend he'll take it. She's just a mess. It's just gross.
Well, that actually cracked me up. I was just like, you need to tell that on our next podcast.
Oh, well, I can find lots of funny stories to tell you then, because there's lots.
Yeah, you need to bring those on. People need a little laughter in their life right now.
It's really bad.
Speaking of which, just a little follow up on the Fauna Frey case. I have been listening to.
Okay, listen. I listened to that dad's interview.
Yes.
Do you think she went on her own?
Okay, well, tell our listeners yes, exactly. Tell our listeners.
So I downloaded that book and I started reading that book too.
Oh, the book that she was reading?
With her dad.
You got to tell people. Okay, so I think it's Nowhere to Be Found is a local woman.
It's a Dean Koontz book.
Okay, but wait, you're conflating the two things. Nowhere to Be Found is a podcast, a new woman that's doing a podcast down in Eugene. She did the Michael Bryson case.
She's really good.
Yeah, she's good. And she does like 7 parts about this person that's missing, where we, spend one episode talking about it. So she's really digging deep. But anyways, she did Michael Bryson and then Bryson, sorry, wrong one. I said that wrong. And then she, the Frey family, or I guess the Frey friends, tried to get her to do Fauna's case. So she did. So she's been interviewing, or I was listening to the interviews with the dad and friends and family, the same people that we had actually done an interview with too. She interviews, but she does the dad. And in one of the episodes with her dad, I found it like an aha moment that the car, when they found the car, inside the car was a box of dark hair dye, but it was unopened, had not been used. And they being Fauna, the dad, and the brother Dallas, had been all reading this same book, which you apparently downloaded and listening to, or are you reading it? I don't know.
An audiobook.
Okay. About this guy who basically is like telling you how to get off the grid,
so it's a Koontz book.
Oh, okay.
So let me go to my library and find you the name of it. It's A Silent Corner by Dean Koontz, and he's just like a crime writer.
Yes.
But it's about, and I've only got to the beginning of the book because it kind of just already follows what she's saying, but she's trying to figure out like the murder of her husband, I believe, and all these people are dying, but it has to do with this one cult. But what she goes in, like she drives her car, she's using cash so that nobody can track her. And at one point, like she can't change facial recognition, but she can change her outward appearance.
Right.
So like she cuts her hair shorter and she dyes it black. And then, so she's been reading this book. And did you hear in the dad's interview, he says she also had a BMW, but she took the older car.
Yes.
Because of what did she say? Because the tracking system or something?
Yes.
They mentioned that. And then Did you hear that he said that she's possibly with somebody else?
Yes.
So there's more to it that we don't have all the information.
Correct.
So she might be traveling, but I also think she had like a nervous breakdown, maybe, with all the things that had happened.
Yeah.
There was like, there was it sounded like a little fallout between her and him, though.
Yes. Well, it sounded like, because he says it, he's the one who admits it. He says, after Dallas's death, because, she went missing, what, 9 days, 8, something like 10 days later.
Yeah.
After Dallas's death, she gets really upset. I even said this in one of our last episodes, that he gets really upset. She gets upset with him about the divorce, about him divorcing the mom and how that whole thing went down. And he says, we were not on great terms. She was very mad at me. So yeah, that's new information.
But like, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, like the divorce was a while ago. So it's like she's bringing up old stuff, like,
correct.
Like she's so upset and everything's just coming to the surface. And she calls him. And then when he asks, how am I going to get a hold of you later? Like, she didn't really answer him, it sounded like.
Correct.
And then she was just off the grid.
Well, and why would she only take $200 though?
Well, he said she probably had more on her.
Oh.
Like, that's not all the money she had. Like,
oh.
It sounded like she could have had a lot more with her. It kind of sounds like he's still looking for her. It sounds like he knows that she's just out there traveling. And like, when I look at the different places that have listened to her, that particular episode, I'm like, she could be one of those people that have heard this. She Googled her name and she's listening to kind of see.
For sure. And he mentions Idaho specifically.
Oh gosh. Yes, he does mention Idaho, but he also mentions, God, what did he say? You just reminded me of something. Oh, she was talking about, like, he never got really into this about the whole angels and all, like the spiritual part of her, that like her mental state at that time.
Yes.
It was kind of,
she was looking for a higher being or a higher purpose.
Right. There was something going on there too. So that's why I think she was kind of losing it a little bit.
Yeah, and I haven't finished that interview with him. So I think I haven't heard that part yet.
It just kind of sounds, well, they don't really talk much about it. They mention it. Like, they mention the book, they mention little things, but they never like fully get into like, wait, I want you to talk a little bit more about that. And it never happens. So,
well, and he also mentions that she could have traumatic amnesia. When people go through these traumatic events, like the loss of her brother, she could have some sort of amnesia.
Okay. So like, let's just say you have a mental breakdown and then you go to this place and you find this woman who you feel is like your, calling or whatever.
Right.
Like, she could,
which is the, what's her face?
Like cult type place that like, like Desiree in the woods, and she could fall into that group.
She could, for sure. Because didn't we discuss, oh no, that's not maybe right up there, but I was going to say there's a lot of down in Josephine County. There's a lot of pot farms, but I think mostly where she went missing is a lot of miners,
But she could be anywhere.
Yes, she could.
And the dad was saying, like, I'm going left. She could be right. Like, he goes, it just doesn't make,
But then somebody knows that car was there. Like, even if she drove it there and hitched a ride, somebody saw her leave that area. And if somebody took the car there and stashed it, somebody knows.
He implies that she's with somebody.
Yeah, she does. Well, there was a tip, right? Or there was something that he didn't really expand on why she may be with somebody.
Yeah. I think there's more to it. We just don't know it all. And I instead of worrying that she fell in a hole or something, I think she's just maybe with the wrong people, or she may feel she's with the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I did think all those things that you're thinking. I don't think I mean, unless she has amnesia or something, I don't know.
Because like, let's just say that she thought that lady was a, sent for her. Like she's, was sent.
That lady's in jail though.
No, but if she was in that frame of mind, she could have met somebody else, and then just like, she feels like she's, like
fulfilling her destiny.
Yeah, or maybe that this is where she's meant to be.
Right.
Right. And so, and if she's happy, she's not going to reach out. Like, let's just hope that she's just kind of brainwashed or mentally ill. Or
yeah, I hope you're right. I don't have very good feelings about it. That's when I was like, okay, do we need to call Jeanette in on this one?
Well, we could definitely ask her.
We need to ask.
I think she moved. She was kind of really busy there for a while, but I think she's now maybe settled again. So it might be worth it.
We are going to talk about a big case that we don't normally do. We don't talk about national big cases because we feel like, every podcast out there is going to cover this one, but you and I have been talking about this case a lot. So this story is extremely complicated. I have listened to so many podcasts. I've listened to Dateline. I have watched, things on this. So I'm going to try to the simplest way kind of outline it. Okay. Lori Vallow Daybell is the woman who recently, you guys may have heard, her 2 children went missing. But what I'm going to start back from the beginning of her marriage with Charles Vallow. In 2006, Lori married her 4th, yes, that's right, 4th husband, Charles Vallow. She had a son, Colby, who was, like a late teenager, I think at the time. He was probably like 17 or 18. She had a daughter, Tylee, and her daughter was with Joseph Ryan in 2014. And I'll tell you a little bit more about him later. So when she married Charles, they adopted JJ. Now, JJ is not their biological son. He is the grandson, this is where it gets confusing too, of Charles's sister, Kay Woodcock. So her husband has a sister. The sister's child has a child. And so now it's the sister's grandchild. Charles and Lori decide to adopt JJ. JJ has autism, and he's definitely a little bit of a handful, but they really, from all accounts, seem to really be being a good parent to him for the first few years. So that's 2006. In 2014, the Vallows moved to Kauai in Hawaii. This is where they start to jump around. So I'm going to kind of give that timeline to you. In 2014, they moved to Hawaii. In 2016/17, they moved back to the States to Arizona. On April 3rd of the following year, 2018, Tylee's dad passes away from apparent heart attack. And again, that was Joseph Ryan, who she had Tylee with. Now, this is 2018. Now, sometime in 2018, Chad Daybell and Lori start showing up on these video podcasts together. And they start talking about the end of the world and the LDS principles, which is Latter-day Saints. Now, this is what I'm going to say here. Lori has now become part of the Latter-day Saints. She has met Chad Daybell, and Chad Daybell is an author, and he has started to promote / preach about LDS principles with a twist. He has added in zombies and the end of the world discussions and talk about what to do about these zombies, and just kind of overall gotten a little group of people together, which I'm going to call a cult because that's what it is. But he's kind of went off the normal rails of LDS and has kind of started this little group. And Lori just sinks right in, and she just gets real comfortable with him. And they clearly start telling the people in this group that they were married in a previous life, that they're meant to be together, just a whole lot of stuff. Okay. So that is in 2018 at some point. Now, in 2019, in January, Charles Vallow, which is her current husband, is seen on a body cam in a video pleading for the police to help him get Lori into mental help. He says there's something wrong with her. She's not right. She's talking about zombies and the end of the world. And you've got to help me. Please help me help my wife. And officers determined that she's of normal state of mind. And or so does the Community Bridge Mental Facility. And I don't exactly know how long she spent there, kind of how she got there, but he does get her at least looked at this mental facility. And they say, you know what? She seems of sound mind. So that's January of 2019. Now, February, a month later, Charles files for divorce from Lori. He claimed that she saw herself as God preparing for the second coming of Christ. He also said that she threatened to kill him if he got in her way. Well, so in February he files, but he stops the divorce proceedings at some point, claiming he was trying to make it work. But in the time that the divorce is proceeding, Lori disappears to Hawaii for like 2 months. She leaves the kids with other people and she's just gone. So that's in and around between February. By June, I'm introducing a new person. Lori's niece, Melanie Boudreau, demands a divorce from her husband. And immediately Brandon is like, what are you talking about? This is a complete shock. I thought our marriage was fine. But he claims that his then wife was affiliating herself with Lori and Chad Daybell, and they had the similar beliefs and had joined a cult. So that's what he says. So that's June. Now, July of 2019, Chandler police get called to a Chandler, Arizona home of Lori Vallow, and her brother, Alex, had shot and killed her ex-husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, whatever, separated husband, Charles Vallow, claiming self-defense. Okay, so they were going to get a divorce, then he stopped the divorce. Now she's back in town from Hawaii after her 2 months rendezvous. And now Alex has accidentally killed the ex-husband. So now a month after this, so this is July. This is why this is so complicated. Everything happens really fast. July of 2019, a month later, Lori, Taylor, which is her daughter, JJ, and Melanie Boudreau, her niece, they relocate, and Alex, sorry. They relocate to Idaho near Chad Daybell. Now, Chad is married. He's been married to his wife since 1990. They had married in Utah. They had 5 children, and they moved to Idaho in 2015. So they've only been there a few years, but seemingly everyone says they were very nice people, very unassuming. They knew he was an author, but whatever. So September 3rd, Lori enrolls JJ in school in Idaho. September 8th, Tylee, JJ, Lori, and Alex visit Yellowstone National Park. And this is said to be the last sighting of Taylor, the daughter. On September 9th, just the next day, phone records place Alex, which is the brother of Lori, and Chad Daybell on Daybell residence. And eventually, this is where Taylor's body is found. Okay, on the same day that police records show that Alex and Chad were both on the property, Chad texts his wife saying he shot a raccoon and buried it on their property in their, what he quote unquote said, pet cemetery. Didn't want her to be alarmed by that. Just so you know, it's okay. I shot a raccoon and I buried it. So anyways, eventually in the same location, police would later find Taylor's body. So less than 3 weeks after JJ had started at the local Idaho school, Lori enrolled him and said he would be being homeschooled. Tylee was never enrolled in any Idaho school, even though her mother, Lori, had claimed that she was actually at college in Idaho. So now, October 1st, Lori rents a 10 by 10 storage unit. Camera surveillance shows 9 visits to the unit, some with Alex, her brother, and some appear to be with Chad Daybell. On October 2nd, just the next day, Brandon Bordeaux was shot by a driver in a Jeep. The Jeep was registered to a dead Charles Vallow. October 2nd, the same day as Brandon was shot, Lori orders a new wedding ring on Amazon using Charles' account that she shared with him, which had been, all of the emails had been forwarded to his sister, which is, again, Kay, who is the grandparent of JJ. So she gets this email saying, you know, thanks for your Amazon order. She opens it up. She sees it's a friggin' wedding ring. So, of course, and she's been trying to get a hold of JJ throughout this whole time. She freaks out. And she starts calling police again. Like, look, what is going on? This ring was later seen on Lori's finger at her beach wedding, which I will get to. So that was October 2nd, by the way. October 9th, just a few days later, Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife, calls 911 saying that a masked man had shot her with a paintball gun. On October 9th, that's 10 days after October 9th, the paintball incident, Chad Daybell calls 911 saying that Tammy has died in her sleep. Investigators rule the death natural. Okay, so now Tammy's dead. On October 25th, a friend of Tylee claims that she received a text from Taylee's phone. Within weeks of October 25th, Chad and Lori were married in Hawaii on November 5th. And over the next few weeks, Chad would tell people that Lori had no minor children and that Lori tells people that Tylee died years earlier. On November 26th, local Idaho police do a welfare check for JJ at the request of the grandparents, as you recall, called Kay and Larry Woodcock. Lori says, and actually you can hear this on YouTube, by the way. Lori says that he is in Arizona with her friend, Melanie Gibbs. Now that's another Melanie, not to be confused by the niece, but another Melanie who was part of this little cult with Chad Daybell. And that he is attending his old school because this new Idaho school, he wasn't doing well, the one he'd only been to for 3 weeks. But this isn't true. JJ isn't with Melanie. And the following day, on the 27th, the police come back with more questions after confirming that JJ is not in Arizona with Melanie. And they find that the Daybells are gone. Chad, Lori, they've left. They've flown to Hawaii. And they had no children with them. So on the 26th was just, 9 days later, Melanie Gibb contacts the Rexburg police in Idaho to say that she's been asked to lie about the location of JJ. They have that also on audio that Lori was asking Melanie to lie about that. Tammy Daybell's body on December 11th is exhumed again. The results have not been released to the public, but they have been released now. We just don't know what the outcome of that autopsy was. But obviously, we're all suspicious that Lori and Chad played a huge part in her.
Because Chad, he also had premonitions.
Oh yes, they
first he said his wife was going to die in a car accident because he told a friend that, and then it turned out. I just have a feeling that, like, I think he mentions that she's going to die in her sleep.
Yes. And even Lori has been found to have said things to people, like she said that her ex-husband, Taylee's father, was going to die. Yeah. And then, of course, he died. So there's been a ton of that. And also, like what I haven't covered is all this discussion of zombies. So Lori was telling people like Melanie Gibbs that JJ was a zombie. Tylee was a zombie. That Charles Vallow, her ex-husband, was a zombie. So she had
Have
been.
you seen like how he charted everybody? Did like he
No.
actually went to the family and then like gave them all certain numbers?
I've heard of this, but I haven't seen anything. You've seen it?
Yeah. I've seen it. I wasn't sure which one you were talking about. So he calls people light or dark.
Yes.
And then he says that depending on where they are, it's I think a 1 through 5
number
categories.
Okay.
And depending on who they are, so let me see if there's a name I recognize on here.
Well, how about Tammy Daybell?
Okay, let me just see if Tammy's on this list. I think this is actually her, the Vallows, the woman, her family.
Lori.
So like we've got Tylee, who is considered a 4.1D for dark.
Yes.
Okay, so then
which is zombie, right?
Well, it didn't ever say exactly zombie, but let me tell you, let me go back to my pictures. Because it does say, and I don't know if this is this a Mormon thing or is this more of
it's not a Mormon thing.
It's not, okay.
No.
Because like I didn't know if it was, you know how like different rungs on the ladder?
Yes. Yes.
It's not that?
I do not believe so.
Okay. So it says, this is what he writes. Most LDS members are a level 2. Most bishops and ward leaders are a level 3. Most stake presidents and general authorities are a level 4. Most apostles, how you say that, are a level 5, and a few are a level 6. The dark side can only match light numbers, not to exceed them. This is why there are few 5s on Earth now. It limits the dark power. 2s and 3s are fluid and can change sides during Earth life. 4.1s and above had made covenants,
right. Yeah.
Covenants to their side, and they rarely switch sides. So
so you're like, either you can be a 2 and be either light or dark or switch.
Right.
But if you're like as you get closer and closer, 3, 4, 5, you're like stuck on that side.
You stay.
So it'd be like a reverse graph. You'd have 0 in the middle, and it would go -5, which is, let's say, dark, and then +5, which would be light.
Right.
Okay.
And so let's just say this was a bracket.
Yes.
Like, so it starts at level 2, and there's billions of people in level 2.
Gotcha.
And there's males and females, and you're either light or dark. And then when you get to a level 3, it says there are about 700,000 males and 2.3 million women that are in this level. So according to this, Tylee is one of 130,000 females, but she was dark. Like, so they're light and dark.
Does it have JJ on that list?
What's that?
Does it have JJ on that list?
So yes, I think I saw his name on here. Let me see. Okay, her third husband was a 4.3. But okay, so JJ, would that be Joshua?
Yes, Joshua.
Joshua Vallow is a 4.2 L. He's a light.
Oh. Why'd they call him?
So Cole, wasn't that her oldest son?
Yeah, Colby. Yeah.
Well, this just says Cole, so I don't know if that's Colby Ryan is a 3L.
A light.
And I mean, he does her whole family. This goes back to like her grandparents. Lori's a 4.3 light. I don't know. That Melanie is a 3L. And her husband, Brandon, is a 3D.
Oh, yeah. See, there you go.
So he just...
I did hear about that list. Melanie talks about that list.
It's on Twitter.
Okay. Melanie Gibbs, which is the friend that was asked to lie, and she was part of this group. She's the one who talks about that list. Yeah, very interesting. So I should just finish off the timeline here.
Okay.
December 11th, Tammy Daybell's body is exhumed. December 12th, Alex Cox, which is Lori's brother, who clearly helped with a lot of this stuff and killed accidentally, supposedly, Charles Vallow. He dies under mysterious circumstance in Gilbert, Arizona, and later was ruled that he died of a blood clot,
Yes.
which I find really interesting because he also lived in the same town where he could have driven the car that shot Brandon, the ex or the husband of the other Melanie. So I kind of find that interesting. Oh, maybe we need to get rid of him. So now, okay, that was December. A whole lot of like little things and investigative things go on in December. And then 2020, January 3rd, the FBI serves a warrant on the Daybell home in Idaho. Now that's the Daybell home that Chad and Tammy lived at. Okay.
Right.
Because now Chad's already moved on. He's got a new wife, but different wife. January 25th, the Kauai police present Lori and Chad with a notice that they must present JJ and Tylee to Idaho police in 5 days. On January 26th of 2020, the Idaho police searched the Kauai rental home, but they refuse to say where the kids are. So Chad and Lori still refuse to say where the kids are. On January 30th, Lori misses the 5 p.m. deadline in Idaho to present the children. On February 3rd, East Idaho News visits the storage unit and finds all of the kids' items, toys, personal belonging, clothes, everything. They find Tylee. So that was February 3rd. On June 9th, they find Tylee on the Daybell property. And there is audio of Lori saying that she was going to kill Tylee's father. So now let's talk about like the nitty gritty stuff that you.
Well, and they found JJ too on the property.
Where did they find JJ on
Same
the property?
place. They were both on the property. So Tylee, from what I heard, there were just pieces of her, flesh, some bone, where JJ was actually wrapped in plastic and had duct tape. So he was more preserved, where she was not.
Is that because she was dark?
Well, it could be because, and I don't know exactly, but there's one of Daybell. So he wrote these books, right? And the people were following him, and they would go to these book talks that he had at like different wards, right?
Yes.
And he had these like groupie girls, and one of them was this lady that's on YouTube. She does this interview, and she never met Lori, but she definitely had like this thing with the Daybell guy, right?
Yes.
And she claims that he came onto her one day, and she strongly denies that she was offended that he had done that. It almost looks like I think she had a crush on him, actually. From what it sounds like, she sounds like she was jealous of Lori, and I could be reading into that. But the way she was saying it, is talking about it, it sounded like she was a jealous girlfriend. But she was saying, she's like mentions in this interview a little bit like how to get rid of like the bad people, where you almost have to dismember them and do certain things. So I wonder if he had done that in order, like Tylee had to be disposed of in a different way. Because
well, but then there's also the thing that Gibb, he told Gibb that JJ had become a zombie. Oh, sorry, Lori had told Melanie Gibb, that JJ had become a zombie, and that because he was sitting watching TV and he loved Satan, and his increased vocabulary meant that he was a zombie too. So I don't know.
He's probably just a kid playing video games like most kids that look like zombies. But I did, and I don't know for sure, but I did hear that he was actually found wrapped in plastic, and there was he was well preserved. They were able to find his whole body, where Tylee's not. It's not the same for Tylee. She might be spread around a little differently, which is really sad, because I think the grandparents, everybody was really hoping for, and
a good outcome.
Somebody was texting on the phone, responding off of Tylee's phone.
Correct.
Right. Yes. So the brother Colby, I saw the interview with him as well. And um
I know that was
he
sad.
he didn't even know his mom had gotten married to
No,
Daybell. Like
right.
he's like, who is this guy? Like, I don't even know who this person is. And they would used to talk like on a regular basis, and then all of a sudden, but it sounds like she kind of had an obsession with him for like the last 4 years. Like she
Yes.
started reading all of his books and then giving other people his books. And then finally got to meet him and then kind of like traveled with him to spread the word.
Correct.
And then they even joked, like the husband even joked, like, are you having an affair with this guy? And they would laugh it all off. But I think she had always kind of liked him. But
Yes.
Lori, she married a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like,
So this Chad would have been her 5th husband.
yeah, it sounded like she's just looking for something, a purpose. Like, I don't know. And then she felt really important with this guy.
Right.
And it's like, if he brainwashed her to believe that she was one of the chosen ones, that they've had all these, and it's funny because
they were married in a previous life.
Right.
And yeah.
Part of me is like, okay, Melissa, do we sound like these crazy people when we talk about these things on our podcast?
I know. So
Like,
we've talked about this before. What does it take for someone to believe in this stuff? And what are the characteristics of somebody who believes in this stuff? Because if you start talking to me, I mean, the funny thing is, if you start talking to me about zombies, I'm going to just start going, what the fuck are you talking about? But if you start talking to me about spirit guides and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm with you. Or angels or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm with you. Like, why?
Well, maybe now, but like 10 years ago, if I would have mentioned that, you might have been like, what the hell? This girl's crazy.
No,
right?
not 10 years ago. I had an experience. I think that I always.
But there are people that hear
Yes.
us that think we might be a little like over the top.
Cuckoo.
Where like, and it probably took me a while to get to this point, but then I even talk to people who then start talking about different dimensions, and then I think, well, there's crazy, like, right? Like,
like my son and the whole alien.
I'm like, oh, I can keep up for a while, and then all of a sudden they lost me because they're like, they just went off the deep end. These people are really nutty. But then I'm not that much less nutty than them either, because
right. It's a different nutty.
Well, I think some of that can make people really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so she is probably not much different than us, other than the subject's different, right?
Right.
Because we believe in this and we believe it to be true. She also feels that same way about whatever subject that she's thinking of. So is it far-fetched to believe or to understand why somebody would do that? Like, just because I believe this doesn't mean I'm going to go join a cult or leave my husband and, find some guy who believes, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, but would you, if you like completely became devoted to the person who was telling it all to you, like he was the Messiah, and he's telling you that your husband is bad and evil because A, B, and C, D. And you're like, well, he does do A, B, and C, D. And, oh my gosh, I'm starting to see it. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Because, okay, so then I just recently watched, it's a fake documentary.
Okay.
Called The Confessions of a Time Traveler 3036.
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, so I'm watching this video and I'm like, oh my God, this is really freaky. Like, is this real? And then I finally had to Google it. And I'm like, okay, so it's not real, but they make it look so real. And the way they present it. So I suppose if the person was good at what they were doing, manipulating and storytelling,
right,
maybe you could believe anything somebody told you. But I always tell Ella, like, even on like TikTok or whatever it is that you're watching or reading, you better do some fact checking before you start spreading this out.
Right.
Because I mean, that video, it freaked me out. Like, he's saying things like, why we're wearing masks now. We'll always wear masks because our air quality is so bad, because the radiation that we've put into our world, which, we think the 5G is really great, but all that did was just amplify the radiation in our air, which is leading to this other thing. And then I'm like, oh my God, like, so when people were talking about the whole 5G thing, I'm like, is that what they were talking about, the radiation? Like all of a sudden I was like, is that what 5G is? Like, and then you're like, holy shit, we are putting a lot of different things out in the world, right? Like I'm texting you, is that there's also a beam of radiation going along with that. I don't know. It started to freak me out, but I'm like, could that be what happened to her and she believed it? Like,
And so this was fake. You were watching
yes,
this.
it is a fake, but I think it was really well done. It's kind of like one of my favorite scary movies is called The Fourth Kind.
Okay, don't know it.
And it's really well done. It's about a hypnotherapist up in Alaska. And the way it's done, it's so good. Like you're like, is this real? Because it's about alien abduction. And it's just the way it's done, it's really well done. I do recommend that. I've actually put a group of people together and we watched it together in the conference room at Club Sport.
So what's your feeling? Is your feeling that, are you getting at, you think anyone is capable of believing anything?
I think a vulnerable person or somebody who, she already read all his books. She was already a fan. He knew it. He's like, okay, I'm going to feed her the right lines and I'm going to get her to kind of step up with him and be this leader of this group. And they probably thought they could get away with all these murders. And they probably could have, if not so many people died, because everyone around them is dying.
Right.
If the kids didn't go missing, I bet you anything, they would still be actively recruiting people and doing their, worship or whatever they do. Like,
for
but they
sure.
also thought, didn't they think the end of the world was like June 2020? Like when that date passed?
Yes, it was. I want to say Melanie Gibbs was saying that too. I want to say that. I don't remember
So
what
when
the date was.
that date came and gone, are they like, oh shit,
Yeah,
that didn't work out? Which is kind of like that other quote that we did
from March.
Remember the one down in California?
The Haley Bop or Haley Bop,
that group.
Whatever. Yeah,
like that date came and gone. He just had to keep changing it.
But there's a new one. There was a new one for Trump supporters, that something was going to happen in March, and I can't even remember what silly thing that was. But it was going to be a big, huge deal, and Trump was going to be put back into office, and blah 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 blah. This is total conspiracy stuff.
I think they're both crazy. I think.
So how do we know we're not crazy? This is my question. And how do I know
we are?
Because I had,
so we're not going to kill people, and we're not, like, the sad thing is they probably don't even know that they are, right? Like,
I mean, like the guy who blew up the Winnebago in Nashville because he believed in lizard people. Like, I just don't know what people believe this shit. And then I go, well, am I capable of believing it? I mean, I do believe in, spirit.
Or it's something that I already believe in.
Yeah.
Not like spirit guides, or
I guess it comes to how harmful is it to believe in a spirit guide. I
think if your spirit guide's telling you to do bad things,
right,
that would be an indicator that maybe things aren't right.
That we need to kill these people, right? Like even people who believe in heaven and hell and God or Messiah or whatever. Like, I think it only becomes a problem when they start doing really bad things in the name of it.
Well, and even if I think, oh gosh, we could just go on and on and on about this, because like, even if they're not doing anything evil, they may be almost judging other people because of what they believe, because even if it was not in a negative sense, but to the point where they're not accepting of other people because other people don't believe what they do.
Okay, so what's your feeling on judging people? I feel like we all judge everything. Like, I'd like to say I don't judge people, and I know that's not true. I know it from every core of my being, and I just don't know that there's someone who doesn't judge people at all, or doesn't judge things that people do at all.
Well, I think it depends on what it is that you're judging, right?
I agree with that. Like, is it? Yeah.
Am I judging on like the choice of jersey that you put on today, or am I am I that
The
your
look, the hairstyle, the
your
glasses.
choice of career, or that you married, or like, I mean, it's not like it just, I guess it depends on what it is. And I feel like especially now, people are so highly in tune to those things that it's
Yes.
really hard to make those mistakes without somebody pointing them out.
Yes.
And I try not to be judgy. I try to be accepting of people, but I'm sure I slip up all the time, or I say things that are offensive, but I would never intentionally do that.
Right.
But
I wouldn't either. I just think I'm being funny. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't know that meant that.
well, okay.
Like
and
the ghetto. Did you even know that the ghetto was I didn't know the ghetto was a thing.
the ghetto, I joke that
Yeah.
I live in the ghetto of Lake
Yeah,
Oswego.
you want to stop saying that now.
I know it really makes my neighbor mad because she lives next door to me.
Because she lives in the ghetto with
Okay,
you, right?
So remember, in the beginning, I did that interview with that guy who claims that he saw an angel. He is
Yes.
a very well-established attorney in downtown Portland.
Yes.
Or probably was. He has his own plane. He's done very, very well for himself.
Yes.
His daughter had died in a terrible accident. And he went to that fast food restaurant, which he said he never did, but something told him that he needed to stop there before he got on his plane to fly to California. And he saw this guy, he's dirty, he's big, and he's like, ugh, and he cut in line, not realizing he cut in line. And then afterwards, like, looked back the guy and said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But he goes, when I walked in the door, I judged him by what he looked at, liked.
Right.
And when the guy touched his shoulder, he was like, he goes, overwhelmed with emotion. Like, he's like, this guy touched him, and it was like he was touched by an angel. Like, he went to his car and just couldn't stop crying.
Yeah.
Like, at that moment he realized, I can't judge people anymore. Like,
right.
He didn't. So I don't know, Melissa, I think we do it, we don't even realize what we're doing it.
Right.
It
Or
could
is
be
that just
like,
what makes us thinking people?
well, and maybe that's what also keeps us safe.
Yeah.
Right? Like, not everybody's a bad person. Not everybody's, they may look mean, but they're not mean, or like, who knows? But I think some of those things keep us safe from things to protect us. Right.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and if we do react, it is out of fear, most likely.
Right.
The fear of unknown, or the fear of not feeling safe around a certain group. I don't know.
I don't either.
I do know that those two people are evil.
Yes.
Oh
my gosh.
I mean, did she kill them? Or I think it sounds like, okay, so when
I think she had her brother doing a lot of the killing, quite honestly.
because he was like
Alex.
on the spectrum as well. He was a little odd.
He was?
It sounded like he was kind of like Daybell, where socially weird.
Oh, okay.
But he was trying to be an actor. He did stand-up comedy a little bit.
Well, he was very much her protector, I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think she could manipulate him pretty easily.
Yes.
And when they were in Hawaii and the police went up to them for that first time and was like, hey, where are the kids?
Yeah.
They said, they asked her where the kids were. And he said, the guy, the policeman said that all the blood left his body. He turned bright white. He couldn't even respond. And Lori grabbed his hand and just walked him through the parking lot. Like, she just went on with her day. Like this is just
she's a stone cold.
Yeah. Where he looked like he was guilty. Like, he was like, oh crap, I'm caught.
Right.
And she's like, come on, honey, let's go. Like, who gets married on the beach for the 5th time? Maybe you do, and it's been number 5 all by yourself. No kids.
Woohoo, with an Amazon ring, no less.
That you ordered before your wife was dead.
Yes. You mean no. Yes, you're right. Before the wife was dead.
Yeah.
And with your ex-husband's account. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's horrible. You're right. That was before the wife was dead. Oh,
because I think she died shortly after that.
Yes, she did. She did.
In her sleep at 49 years old.
I know.
Out of natural causes. Like, so Melissa, when I'm going to be you're 49 right now.
Dude, I'm 50. I just turned 50.
Okay, so if you like one day like didn't wake up, I would be like, this is not natural causes.
Okay, so have you heard the story of me having a pot brownie?
Recently?
Well, it was a couple years ago, and I was like, "Oh, let's just try this," So both Eric and I have one, and
And you ate the
clearly,
whole thing? Mm.
well, yes. And in fact, I had part of it, and I was like, "Oh, nothing's happening, so I'll just eat the other half." Well, we came home that night, and it took like 4 hours to really hit me, right? Well, we get home because we'd been out and we didn't drive, by the way. We had our daughter pick us up, which was stupid. She's like 19 years old. She has no idea that I am just like spinning out of control, right? But we kept it together. I come home and I'm like, I gotta go to bed. And I'm upstairs and Eric comes up after just like talking her ear off downstairs. He's just like, I'm like, you need to shut up. Like,
Yeah.
dude. So, anyways, he comes upstairs and I go, okay, I just need you to know that I'm going to die. And I just wanted you to know. And he goes, you're not going to die. You're just high. And I go, no, I'm going to die. And you're going to feel very bad when my cold body is laying next to you in the morning.
Ew, that is sick.
Yes. And he's just like, no, honey, you're okay. And I was convinced, Leslie, that I was going
We're
to
gonna
die.
wake up.
It was so weird. It wasn't like I couldn't breathe. It wasn't like I felt bad in any part of my body. My brain was just telling me, oh, you are going to die.
You're going somewhere else.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Brandy, she tells the story. It is so funny because this is the best part about working in the salon. You get all these different stories, especially when you work with other people.
Yes.
And I'm just doing nails, I'm listening, right? And you try not to be obvious. My back is to her, so I'm just listening away. And she tells the story how like she had an edible and she's supposed to eat like, a quarter of it. She ended up eating like two, like, 6 times as many as you're supposed to
Yes.
have. She somehow managed to get to the bathroom, which then she tries to call help. She calls somebody, she texts them, help, I need help. And she's not even in the concert. Like she's just in the bathroom at the concert.
Oh, she's at a concert?
She's at a concert at the Coliseum or wherever. And she's with a friend and they don't even go to the concert. She calls for help. And then somebody picks her up, like a husband's friend comes to get them. Then she's like worried because she left Jeff's car there. And then as she's going, she's like, oh my God, what if this really isn't the husband and they're actually being kidnapped? And like she's just telling the story and I'm just like dying laughing. Like the whole thing, it just led to one thing after another. And how in your mind at that time, you were like something serious is going down.
Yes.
You're just getting a ride home. Like,
that was the other thing is I had 4 thoughts. I don't even remember what the 4 thoughts were now, but one of them was that I was going to die. So I had 4 thoughts and I was rotating through each of the 4 thoughts. So I would think I'm going to die. And then I would think, what was the other thing? Oh, Eric kept saying he wasn't high. And so that was my next thought. And then I had 2 other thoughts in there and I kept literally going through those round and round. And when I get to the last one, then I go back to the first one again. It was the weirdest thing. So I totally get it when she says like she kept having these irrational thoughts about, well, what if it isn't the husband? And then she'd probably think about some other things and she'd go back to, but what if this isn't the husband?
Right.
Yeah.
So what if like in that state, like we think that we're being kidnapped or we're thinking we're going to die? Like that's very real at that moment, right?
It was very, very real.
So what if Lori Vallow feels like what they did to the kids was like actually valid because they really truly believe in this other thing that he had,
well, then she's in a constant state of being high. And they need to stop giving her the edibles. So
and the thing was like before that, she was on Wheel of Fortune. And she won $17,000. She was in a beauty contest, and I believe she won.
Know that. Yeah.
She was like this mom that was like everybody went to her because she was this great mom. And then is there a point like I do know I've seen this where there's like these moms that do everything for their kids, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm out. I'm done. It's my turn. I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Could that have been what happened? And so she fell hard for this guy and then believed everything that he had to say. And the only way to be with him is if you do believe in all of that.
Are you implying that maybe she had some sort of miswiring or chemical imbalance in her brain, similar to when you've had an edible. I mean, that's clearly like some sort of chemical imbalance, right?
Or maybe she just had some sort of internal
Trauma.
breakdown of some sort where she was that super mom forever. And then she's like, okay, I'm done. I met the man of her dreams for the fifth time.
For the fifth
And
time.
right. So she met this amazing man, and now she's going to believe him wholeheartedly, everything he says. Like,
I
she
don't know.
really
This is
believes
where the cynic in me just goes, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not buying it. I think she's just batshit crazy. Like,
they have to be. There's no way you
yeah.
could like do that as
Yeah.
a really like, the
I mean, I
PTA
woke up the
mom.
next day going, oh, yeah, that was an irrational thought. I wasn't going to die. I mean, I don't know. It's
It's like you almost need to write down all your thoughts in that time, because
Yeah.
are these really good? Because they seem really good at the time.
Well,
Are they really good, or you're just
haven't
like,
haven't we
know.
talked about when I had surgery like a couple years ago and I was on Tylenol 3 with whatever, codeine or Tylenol 3, I don't remember. And I had I started writing down all these amazing inventions. Didn't I tell you about those?
I think you did. And then afterwards, do they make sense? Like,
Well, they kind of made sense, but I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
but they sound so amazing at the
They
time.
sounded so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were just like, oh my God, these are great ideas. Yeah. And then it just kind of was not as great.
Oh, so I don't know.
All right, Salon Sleuth fans, we want you to stay curious, stay suspicious, and stay open